All right. Hi. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, I can hear
Okay.
you.
Awesome. And I'm just getting stuff ready here off to the side. And I know that we have a couple people waiting already. Oops.
Yes.
Okay. So, Katie's already there. Hi. Andrea Salgado. Hi. Welcome. So I just want to welcome everyone. This is Joe with Awaken Star Seeds, Psychics, and Lightware Support Group. And I have our two guests, and you might recognize them from last week. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty, so we're doing this again. We're trying this again here. And if even if you did watch it last week, it's going to be just as informative. So I want to welcome, first we have on the right of the screen there, we have Joy Giovanni of Zen Temple Wellness, based out of San Diego, and she's waving there. And we also have Kelly Fisher, SoCal Medium, also based out of San Diego. How you two doing?
Great, thank you.
Doing well.
It just started raining here up in the Bay Area, so I don't know. We had a little technical difficulty last week, but hopefully that won't be a factor this time around. So why don't we just jump right into it? Lynn, hi, welcome. I see Lynn just joined. She's been waiting patiently. She's like, hey, what's going on? All right. So, I just wanted to start off, since you two are relatively newer members to the group, at least Kelly, you are. And, maybe this group doesn't quite know you just yet. So I'd love for both of you to, just give a quick intro. Kelly, why don't we start with you? Tell everyone about your background here.
Okay, well, I'm Kelly Fisher, and I go by SoCal Medium. We're down here in Southern California where we don't ever get any rain. If you could send some our way, we'd be really appreciative. But anyway, I am a medium and a psychic. I guess all psychics, all mediums are psychic. So, but with mediumship, really, we focus on, talking to past loved ones, moms, dads, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, and so on and so forth. So that's really where my focus is. But I also do intuitive guidance as well. And I discovered my gift really early on, but I kind of shut it out because it was scary and I didn't understand it. And then it came back with extra oomph, maybe like 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. And I just couldn't shut it out anymore. So it's, I've just been working on it and developing it ever since.
Awesome. Awesome. And Veronica Paris just joined. Hi, Veronica. Great to see you. A lot of these San Diego peeps. And funny thing with Kelly, we just found out that we were neighbors in the same office for a little bit and didn't even realize it. So
that's crazy. I know. We definitely could have bumped into each other in the halls.
Yeah. All right. And we also, so that was Kelly. If you're just joining us, we have Kelly. She's off to the left here, SoCal Medium. And then we also have Joy to the right of the screen. So Joy, why don't you introduce yourself and let everyone know who you are?
Awesome. Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Joy Giovanni. And I guess a little bit about me. I have had several careers and different exciting things throughout my lifetime. I began in health and wellness in 2001 or so as a massage therapist. I was also a trainer and a nutritionist. And then over the years, did several interesting things and decided later on to study Reiki. And Reiki and psychic development is really what opened up my mediumship. And then I started to be able to connect with, same as Kelly, loved ones that have crossed over, grandmas, grandpas, brothers, sisters, aunts, and uncles, and began just following that path and have done extensive training just because I think it's always important to develop what we have and work to the best of our ability. So I do mediumship development, and then I also work as a trance medium. So different types of mediumship, which is going to be really fun to talk about today.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you just joined us, why don't you go ahead and just say hi in the comments so that we can say hi to you there. And, the thing with Joy and I, we actually met through another psychic. There's like this whole psychic network here in San Diego, apparently. And we also just happen to be in the same Transmedia training. So talking about all these different modalities of not only psychic studies, but also with mediumship. There's the mediumship, which Kelly, alluded to, talking to dead people, and then there's transmediumship, which is just another form of mediumship where, you might channel healing energies from higher guidance. And, for those of you that just joined and are getting to know me, maybe because there are some new members here in this group as well. My background is I'm a clairvoyant, and I've been teaching at a school of clairvoyance for the last 5 years now. So essentially, I'm a psychic that teaches other people how to be psychic. And I'm also just a lifelong student myself. And here I am. I'm still learning. And that program that Joy and I are in, it's a 5-year program, and we're on year 4 now, right? Year 4 of this program.
I'm always confused. I feel like we just are we ending year 4? Are we beginning year 5? It feels like a really long time already, but I like it.
Yeah. And here's the thing for everyone that's watching is that, even though you might have been studying this stuff for a long time, or you've been kind of intuitive all your life, there's always something else. There's always something else to learn, something more to grow to, or to get to. And maybe ultimately you're going to be online just like we are talking about this stuff. I see Andrea Salgado. Hi, welcome. Great to see you. Del, welcome. Great to see you. So yeah, I have these two on. These are two mediums out of San Diego, if you're just joining us. And so, what I wanted to do was just bring them on and ask them a few questions of because in the group, I know a couple people are asking questions like, what's the difference between mediumship and channeling? How do you know if you're doing this right? Or like, what do I do if all these spirits are just constantly whispering in my ear? They won't leave me alone. It's like, what do I do? So, I'd love to ask the experts here, especially on mediumship. Sarah just joined. Hi, Sarah. Welcome. And so, just so you know, for the panel here, we might say something, but they don't get the message till like 3 seconds later. So, we might entertain some questions here at the end if we have time. But let me start off by asking you two, what's the difference between mediumship and channeling? And Kelly, you started to allude to it a little bit. Why don't you start off? What's your take? What's the difference between mediumship and channeling?
That is a really good question, and I think we get it a lot. And the best way that I know how to answer it is probably a similar way that Joy is going to answer it, because I look at mediumship as more of a narration. So it's a 3-way conversation between me, the person that's receiving the message, and the communicator who's in spirit. And I am kind of just telling the person, the loved one who's with us in the physical world, what their loved one in spirit is saying, doing, how they're making me feel, and communicating the message that way. Now with channeling, when I've done channeling with writing, I just completely get out of the way. I just sort of allow the messages to come, and I don't question anything. I just let it spill out. So I write it. I know Joy can speak to it doing it live, channeling live, and it's a similar experience. But I'll let you, if it's okay, toss it over to Joy on that one.
Yeah, because Joy, I know I've seen you channel in person actually, and I was like, whoa, your voice changed, and I was like, what's going on? Who is that sitting there? So what's your experience, mediumship versus channeling, and just this live, this whole notion of live channeling as well?
Both are really amazing experiences, but like Kelly said, just completely different experiences. Mediumship for me is similar to what Kelly said. Again, we're going to have kind of a similar answer because we work similarly. It's the loved ones in spirit sharing with me their memories, images of things that I've lived through that they're using to help me get the message across. I think it's important for people to know that we don't get to see the memories of the loved ones that have passed over, but rather they're accessing our memories and using things that we, the medium, have seen in this life to get across their messages. And so there is a little bit of decoding and feeling that goes on for us to be able to understand what they're trying to give us to pass along to the loved one. So it is quite the three-way communication of them sharing memories and details with me, and then me trying to really feel and experience what they're trying to get across, and then for the loved one to either understand or not understand what I'm relaying. And then channeling is essentially similar to what you guys already said, where I just kind of step to the side. There's a specific format that I'm actually doing to achieve it. And then I'm aware of the guide or the angel or whatever higher ascended being that I'm working with, and I let them step in, and they actually can plug in and use my voice. They don't have to change it dramatically, but it does change slightly. I've noticed I've heard the recordings. I hear it happening as it's happening, but I don't know what they're going to say next. So I'm a listener as well. But it's a very different feeling. Both are really cool experiences, but totally different.
That's interesting, because I've heard both of you say that you feel the experience versus Kelly, when you were saying, you were distinguishing getting out of the way. Can you talk more about that? Like what does it feel like when you're actually, in this mediumship kind of a space and letting people access your information and letting spirit channel through, or I don't even know what the word is anymore, just working through you. What does that actually feel like?
So with mediumship, we refer to it as a blending. So it's my soul blending with their spirit. So it's not, they're not taking over our body or anything like, Whoopi Goldberg and Ghost. It's not quite like that. It's more of an understanding. It's an enveloping of, my auric field blending with their spirit. So when we do that, when we blend and we surrender, when surrendering is more surrendering our self-judgment. So, we kind of just sit back and say, okay, this is what I'm receiving, and we trust it. So it feels, when you're really in it, when you're really blended well, it feels magnificent, because it's, you're at a higher vibration, and you just know that the information is going to be right. It's going to be understood by the person who's receiving the message. So, and sometimes it can be frustrating, because I know the spirit's trying to get a message through, but it's something I can't totally understand. But then when I give it the way that I receive it, I'll give you an example. The other day I had a girl that I was working with, and I got sweet water. But I wasn't feeling it was a body of water. I was just feeling it was just the name. And so I said, I just keep getting Sweetwater. And she said, that's my dad. He was a basketball coach at Sweetwater High. So sometimes when they can fill in a couple of the gaps, that's helpful. But usually if we're really well blended, we can fill in those gaps, and it's just a flow. It feels great.
Interesting. So, talking about being blended, right? And that's actually kind of new to me. I guess based on your all's definition, I'm more of a channeler. I just kind of repeat verbatim what I'm hearing, and sometimes they use my voice, but then I don't know. I'm still a child compared to you two, apparently.
I don't know, John. I've heard you channel. I'm going to challenge you on that.
So, Joy, what do you have to say for these people that, I wanted to call them accidental mediums or just natural mediums, right? Where they feel, even for me, I've had moments in my life where I've said something or did something. I'm like, whoa, was that even my voice? Or, oh my God, that just, what was that feeling? That particular guide or spirit just did not feel good in my body. What's your response to that? And what kind of tips do you have for people that want to get into mediumship but are, just afraid of like all this blending stuff that you all are talking about?
I can tell you that I used to be very nervous and afraid for very many years. And the more I understand, the better I have felt over the years, and the more comfortable that I feel, because I understand that in our human way, something might seem scary because it happens at night in the dark and we hear a noise. And so we're perceiving it as, oh, it's scary just because it's dark. But their intention is never to scare us. I've never encountered someone that's like negative or bad or really scary in any way at all. And I do find that the people that were in life maybe would have been considered, you know, not as good and upstanding citizens. When they come through, they don't come through with this negative, angry way about them. They come through actually even a little more gently and a little quieter, it seems. So I haven't encountered a ton of negativity. I will tell you a good tip for people that are maybe newly stumbling into their mediumship and have, as you said earlier, just kind of souls chatting around them at all times. Mine doesn't quite work that way, but from what I understand, we can let them know when we're ready to communicate and when we're having our own human experience time. So it's great if you can just let them know, hey, I'm not working right now, or I'm not open for conversation right now. But it's almost like you schedule a time for meditation or just to kind of have a mental chat with whoever's around, and they'll respect that time. So I've got like a 45-minute block a day that I set up, and don't really chat with me outside of that time unless I allow or, you know, say that I'm open for it, because we're the ones in the body having the physical experience. So we're in charge. So we do get to set those boundaries. It's just not something that's really openly discussed anywhere, but we do have the right to set boundaries for ourselves. So that's helpful for me to know.
Awesome. I just want to give a couple hellos there. Tiana, hello. Alice, I see you joined a few minutes ago. Hello, Sarah. Lynn, this group has taught me that it's love and to keep my vibration high and let go of the fear. Yeah, that's very true. And, you know, at least in my book, you know, when you're setting up your psychic space, and I'm talking more of the clairvoyant space, you do want to be kind of, you know, in that higher vibration. And in my book, I talk about being in the vibration of amusement and, you know, even neutrality, right? Rather than fear. Because if you are matched with these lower vibrations, then you're going to kind of attract more of these lower vibrational beings. So Kelly, how about for you? What kind of ways do you set up your space before you're channeling or, you know, mediumship? And what are some ways that you protect yourself from that our listeners can some tips that you could provide them?
Yeah. Well, it's a good question because like Joy said, there was a time when I was afraid too, before I really understood what was going on, you know, to see a spirit or to hear something, a disembodied voice was really scary because it wasn't part of our normal everyday experience. And I know that a lot of people go through that and they may not have an outlet aside from your group or, you know, other similar spiritual outlets to talk about it. But so what I started to do is I just started to intentionally ground myself. So, you know, I envisioned a cord going down from my spine and then anchoring into the center of the earth. So there are a couple of different schools of thought on that, but that one was an easy way for me to visualize, and it was something that made me feel safe. One of our mentors in mediumship will say that he doesn't believe in grounding because our physical body is grounding enough. So it just sort of depends on what resonates with you. Yeah. But then, you know, when I really got started, that was one of my main concerns is if I open myself up, will I be protected? So one thing that I did that was really easy is I just imagined myself surrounded in white light, and I set my space and I just set the intention that these are my words, but you could use your own, that anything that does not walk in God's white light is not welcome to enter my space. So that's just, you know, my way of connecting and my way of setting up. But you really need to find a way, you know, everybody for themselves that works, it really resonates with them. So that's how I do it. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm gonna give a couple hellos here. Antonella, she says, "Keep the power." Yeah, same with you, sis. I know, Antonella. Cindy, hello. First time here. Hi, Cindy. Welcome. Glad to have you here. I want to go ahead and open it up to the group. So for all the listeners and viewers watching, if you want to post a question, especially anything around mediumship or channeling or psychic protection, since that's what we've been talking about. And in about 5 minutes, we're actually going to also, if you are a San Diego resident or even just anywhere in Southern California, we have a special event that we want to invite you to so that you can see these two and myself in action. But before we get there, if you do have a question, go ahead and type that in. And while we're waiting, I have a question for both of you, and either of you can answer this. Sometimes in the psychic community, we get a bad rap, right? It's like these psychics, they'll just tell you anything you want to hear, and it's so easy for the reader, the psychic, to say, "Oh yeah, that's your grandmother, and she says she loves you." Right? Anyone can say that, and you don't even have to be a psychic. So, I'd love to hear your take. How do you know? How do you know that it's really that spirit? How do you trust even yourself to deliver that message? And what do you do? What do you work through to make sure that you're working with the right spirit there?
Who's taking it? Well, maybe we could both answer because I know our answer is going to be similar, but we are evidential mediums. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring through evidence so that there should be no question with our recipient that this is their mom or this is their grandfather, because they have to bring something that is so specific that it would be nowhere on the internet. There would be no way for us to know it other than to have received it from their loved one in spirit. So we try to give the evidence first, and then oftentimes a message of "I love you," "I'm proud of you," "I'm sorry" will follow, but not always. Sometimes the message is just in the evidence to let them know that there is survival of consciousness or survival of love after physical death. So, Joy, do you have anything to add to that?
Not really, just that is why that three-way communication that we were talking about is so important, because it's the job of the recipient who's sitting across from us in a private sitting scenario to tell us the yes and no. For example, if I'm saying, Joe, I have your grandpa, and you guys shared a memory where you went on a trip on an airplane. Do you understand that? So then you would say yes or no, and then I can continue. Okay, I'm understanding the airplane. Can I understand where the trip was going? Can I understand something that we did on the trip? So it's opening my mind for those type of details to come through. And then as I present them, which is where the trust fall comes in that you were asking about, it feels like a trust fall to me every time, even though I'm clearly seeing and experiencing the information. There is a little bit of that. I think Kelly alluded to earlier, that self-doubt that we're constantly, and that is where the development comes in. I think most of the professional working psychic mediums that I know, we're constantly in development because we're always working on understanding ourselves and trusting ourselves so that our communication can be that much stronger, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell everyone that, there are some times I'll just go to in the school and Intuitive Insights in San Diego. There's a free healing clinic every month. And sometimes I'll just go just because I want to test my chops. I want to read a stranger. And I'll tell you, even though I've been doing this for many years now, I'll still sit in front of someone. I'll be like, oh crap. Okay. You get nervous. You're like, oh, it's like, oh, please, can you give me a message from my grandmother? I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to read a dead person. And so there's always that kind of thing in the back of your mind, like, okay, I just a quick story for everyone. I had, I did a reading for a party one time. It was this group of like 20 women, and it was wild. They're all drinking. But one of the women, she sat in front of me and she goes, can you give me a message from my dad? And, I don't want to ask too many questions, right? I just ask the basic thing, like, okay, what's his name and how long ago did he pass away? That's all I need, right? I don't need any other kind of backstory. And so I went ahead and said hello to the spirit. And I said, this is more kind of telepathic. When I'm talking to spirit, I ask, hey, give me just some evidence that it's really you. and this male spirit came down, and I just heard the word Quechua, and I'm like, Quechua? It was so specific, right? And I was like, okay, the person I was reading, I was like, this is gonna sound really dumb, but I'm just gonna say it anyway. I got the word Quechua, and oh my gosh, that lady just almost instantly fell into tears because that's her native language in Peru. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know, right? But can you imagine if I didn't say that, what would happen for the person receiving the reading, right? So, for those of you that are watching, if you're ever in doubt and you're wondering, is this the right thing? Should I say it? Now, I always like to tell the story of that. Sometimes if you see a purple dog in your vision, just go ahead and say it, right? And I like to say the universe, there's no accidents in the universe. And, maybe the universe is delivering this message for a reason this time, right now. So for any of you that are out there, you're new to all this and you're wondering, did I do this right? Did I do this wrong? I like to just say that there are no accidents. Just report what you hear, report what you see, and for those that do want to get into mediumship, just taking it to the next level, just literally let the energy channel through you, get flow through you. And I love what you said earlier, both of you, that sometimes you don't even know it's going to come out of your mouth. You just allow the words to come through. So it looks like we didn't have any questions. Let me see. There's one more question I want to ask you, and then let's talk about our event here. What messages typically come through from the other side? What do you find that people that have passed on? What are the typical messages that people want the living to hear? Kelly, why don't we start with you? What do the dead people want us to know on this side?
Yeah, that's a good question too. So Tony Stockwell, who's a medium from England, once I think sort of famously said, we really want all of these really specific details and the native language of their foreign country that they lived in, or whatever. But he says, but really, the moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas just want to say, hello, I'm safe, and I love you. And so it's our job to give the evidence first, but the most common message is that of love. And it's beautiful to be able to feel it. As a medium, we experience the love and the connection. We get the I'm sorries, and the I'm proud of you. And those are pretty common, but I love you is the most common that comes through.
Oh, wait, we do have a couple questions coming through. So let's see. So Antonella's asked, and by the way, Joy, we'll get back to you on your take. Let's see. So Antonella is asking, do you ever feel like you have an entity corded in? And if so, how does that feel for you? And how can you tell? Who wants to take this one? An entity corded into you.
That's yours, Joy.
Okay, so no is the quick answer for me to that. It doesn't corded into me, and I may be misunderstanding the question. For me, kind of feels like we're asking if something like attaches itself, like hooks in somehow and permanently or semi-permanently attaches. I just don't have that. That just doesn't happen. As part of our training, there's, as I was saying, there's a specific way that we're establishing that connection. And part of it is an agreement between the medium and whoever they happen to be working with that we can't see with our physical eyes, that they will respect our space and that they will completely leave our space. And I even sort of do that with the grandmas and grandpas that I work with from the spirit world, just the understanding that once everyone's done, everyone goes home with their own loved ones that they came with, if you will. So, and I do ground regularly and clear my space. And some of you from this network may be familiar with the tools that Joe works with and teaches. And I use a lot of those foundational tools as well, just to kind of quickly flush out the space. And it's not just for beings or spirits. It's also just because, especially in a reading situation, there are high emotions and a lot of just energy, if you will, from the reading itself. So it's nice just to clear all that out so I can get back to neutral in my own space. But I think it's always a good idea to have, I call it your bubble, so your auric bubble. I think it's always a good idea to have that grounded as well. And if it makes you feel comfortable, just to kind of float a little rose of protection or separation or seniority, whatever makes you feel most comfortable in your space. Hope that all makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you brought up an important concept that, sometimes it can be the agreement that you have with these beings, whether you're conscious of the agreement or not. The agreement itself is an energy. And, maybe the being or that spirit can cord into the agreement itself. So it's one thing to have the being in your space, but, there's an agreement to that, right? There's some kind of energy, whether it's from this lifetime, maybe even a past life. So sometimes, I like to use the analogy of a platform. Sometimes it's better to get rid of the platform, right? So then the being has nowhere to stand anymore. And then, it's kind of funny when you get rid of these platforms, at least clairvoyantly, when I'm looking at these beings like, oh, crap, I have nowhere to go. And they just go back to source, or you could just lead them back to source. So great question. One more question here, and then we'll be calling time here in just a moment. This question comes from Veronica. Veronica is asking, can you still connect to spirits that have crossed over many years ago? For example, over 10 years ago. Who wants to take this question?
We both probably have an answer, but I just had a gentleman the other day, and I feel like he was in his, I want to say mid to late 70s, and he was, his intention was to connect with his grandparents. So as you could imagine, if he's earthly 70s, his grandparents would have been past quite some time, and we were able to connect with them just as easily as someone who's passed for 2 years. They were really great communicators. I think some of it has to do with, from my understanding now, that when they're on the other side, they also learn to communicate. So it's us as mediums learning to receive the messages, but on the other side, they learn to communicate and give the messages from their end. So it really just depends on how strong I am and how strong they are, and our pairing, I guess, is a good way to say it.
Right.
Time is no value over there. There's time and space doesn't quite work on the other side the same way. So
yeah, because they're outside of time and space. They don't experience time and space like we do. So all right, well, great questions. Thanks, Veronica, and thanks, Antonella, for the questions there. So we want to go ahead and take a moment now, and thank you both, Kelly and Joy, for coming on. And I just want to share with everyone that if you want to see these two in action, and you live in the San Diego area, all three of us, we're going to be holding an event. It's called Mediumship and Messages, bringing holidays home. Or I have to read this thing here.
Bringing heaven home for the holidays, Joe.
Heaven home for the holidays. Yes, bringing heaven home for the holidays. So, yeah, that's going to be in San Diego. So we'd love for you to join us. In the description, I left the link there if you want to purchase tickets. We have a early bird special going on. And so if you...
special's done because the event's in 2 days or 3 days.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, right. But if you want to have like a date night, there is a secondary discount. That's if you buy 2 tickets at once, you get $5 off each ticket, not just one. So if you want to bring a friend or have a date night, or I don't know, want to give someone a nice gift for the holidays and take them out to kick off the season.
All right. Yeah. And so this is going to be December 2nd, the Sunday, from 5 to 7 p.m. And like I said, the link is right there to reserve your tickets. And so go ahead and click on that link and purchase your tickets. And we'd love to see you there. And, already, at least when I give a hello to the energy, there's so much energy from the other side already flowing through. And so even if you have just a little bit, talking about no accidents in the universe, right? Maybe you've seen this broadcast. It's no accident you're seeing this broadcast so that you can come to an event like this, so that you can get the messages from spirit. And I'll tell you, just like what we shared today, just also to kind of sum up from today, from the other side. They just want to communicate just as much as we want to communicate with them. So if that calls to you at all, go ahead and take advantage of our, just like Joy said, bring a buddy, and when you bring a buddy, you get a discount for when you buy 2 tickets. So anyway, let me see if just any last minute comments here.
I'm going to make one if not. I'm really excited. This is the first time all 3 of us have worked together publicly, so I'm very excited about that. And I also want to let everyone know, I don't think it says it in the formal description. However, we're doing a side raffle as part of the event. So anyone who brings a new or gently used blanket or winter coat, we're working with an organization who passes those out to those in need in San Diego area. So if you bring new or gently used blanket or coat, you'll receive a raffle ticket for a chance to win a private reading of your own. So that's also something a little fun we're doing with this event.
All right. Awesome. All right, Kelly. All right, Joy. And to all the people that are watching, thank you so much for joining us. This was a fun conversation. Even I learned something. And so I look forward to seeing y'all on Sunday at 5 p.m. All right, everyone. Thanks again.
Guys. Great to see you guys.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.